All right. Again, good afternoon, everyone. This is Kim Seymour from Talent Management and Organizational Development with the Emerging Leader sponsor update call in preparation for the upcoming August conference. Really appreciate everyone being able to join this call today and run through some quick updates and information that you will need in order to prepare yourself for the August conference and other items that we have going on with the Emerging Leader program. So first off, just want to take a moment and welcome our new Emerging Leader sponsors. So Mohammed Khan at 9 Mile Point will be joining us, replacing Bob Buglehall. And then we also have Adam Schurman joining us from Dresden. Additionally, we have Tim Moore, who is transferring to Kennett Square from Oyster Creek, and he will be joining us as the Nuclear East executive sponsor, replacing Rick Libra, who has been with us for the last 7 years or so. So I'll just take a quick pause and see, Tim, since you are on the line, if there's anything that you'd like to share with the group.
Well, just that, I truly believe that the Emerging Leader program is a very critical and vital one for us as we look to continue to develop people in the organization, develop leaders, improve the fleet's performance, and ultimately develop all of our replacements. I will appreciate all the site sponsors' commitment and support of the initiatives. I very much look forward to being the executive sponsor and helping out with the program in any way that I can. I think it's vital. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Tim. I really appreciate that. All right. So hopefully we'll have a chance to get to know Tim a little bit better through these calls and also through some of the conferences here. So for our call today, we'll be going through some best practices and lessons learned. We'll talk about the conference itself and some general updates for both the class of 2019 who are in the conference period, as well as the class of 2018 who are wrapping up their capstone and have a graduation event being combined with the class of 2019 conference, this coming August conference. And then in the last couple of slides, we'll recap some help we're looking for from you as sponsors, as well as provide you with some additional details about a new Emerging Leader committee that we've developed in the appendix. So before we dive into the best practices and lessons learned, I want to just briefly turn it over to Ted Stoner, who is our executive sponsor in the West, who had a couple of things that he wanted to share with the group. Go ahead, Ted.
All right, thank you, Kim. Hey, first off, I welcome all the new sponsors to the group and the new executive sponsors. I mean, as Tim already alluded to, it's an outstanding program, one that I have a lot of passion for. Kim's done a lot of great work over the last year or two in order to condense a few things. So now we have the 2-day sessions with some strong networking in between, which I think is just fantastic. And then for the remaining sponsors, I just look forward to working with you again and your continued support. With many things we do in nuclear, there's additional items that we do if you're viewed as being very strong in an activity. You were all chosen because you were viewed as being strong leaders and advocates for leadership development. So when you think about it in that venue, I encourage you then to transfer that to the SLT at your station. Some of the positives that I've seen is strong sponsors, strong advocates for the program from the sponsors. Those folks would be the ones that are always attending, always having the full support. You can see it at their Emerging Leader conferences from the stations that fully endorse this program. By those folks are always there, and that when we need help for things such as graduation that I'll talk about in a minute, they are always the stations that volunteer first. So really what I've seen as positives are the same things that I've seen as, I'll say, improvement opportunities from other stations, and that's just your full involvement and commitment to the program so that these folks can learn and take our position someday as we all retire. So I'd encourage you to think about that. One of the things what we're still needing some help with is graduation attendance, which in the West will be 15th. We're looking for 2 SLT members above and beyond the sponsors to attend that graduation, and then also do some of the networking and interviewing that we'll do at that speed networking, I believe we call it now, that we'll be doing at that function. So please make sure that you have 2 SLT members attending other than yourself. And I really look forward to this year and making some good progress with these folks. That's all I got, Kim.
Thanks, Ted, very much. And kind of in that same vein, I wanted to share some statistics with the group too, as we think about what does it mean when we're advocating to our SLT peers about the program and everything that it offers, in particular, your role and the importance of your commitment and your dedication to the program, to the conferences, and in support of the emerging leaders at the site. We were able to run some numbers over the last 5 years and take a good look at how is the Emerging Leader Program stacking up in terms of the results that we're trying to achieve. And so I wanted to share those with you. And what's really great is we've achieved an average of a 56% promotion rate from the Emerging Leader Program. And keep in mind that that's a lagging number. That includes class of 2018 who are only just completing the program. And when we look at that as compared to the average promotion rate of people who come into the organization as individual contributors and are seeking to progress, that's compared to about a 3% promotion rate this year in particular. So those are really good numbers. We already have emerging leaders who have progressed to the key manager rank, so that's certainly an impressive note. And to me, that says that it's working and it's helping our future leaders reach those heights and hopefully becoming better leaders for it. In addition to those who were promoted, we have 52% of our emerging leaders on succession charts, 55% of which are diverse. So, that's just a huge accomplishment as well. And when you start to look at retention of employees as well, that's something that we're always keeping an eye on to make sure that we're retaining those people who are on those succession charts and continuing to build our talent pipeline. So just wanted to share a couple of those notes with you. That's some detail that's actually being presented to Brian and his team, Brian Hansen in Nuclear today at his senior leadership team offsite. So I wanted to share that with you all as well. Any questions about any of that before we move on to some best practices? Okay. So at each of these quarterly meetings, we try and carve out some time to share best practices and lean on you as sponsors to weigh in about what's working or even lessons learned from your sites. But the Emerging Leader Working Team, Anne-Marie Harris, Mike Caldarella, and Katie Manis, who are also on the line, thought it would be helpful to give you some specific feedback that we heard in the Emerging Leader Survey from the first conference. So May session was the first GenCo conference where we all came together, where the emerging leaders really got to meet not just you as their site sponsor, but other sponsors from other sites as well. And so these were some of the things that they shared with us in the survey. So best practices, it was great seeing a sponsor at every table, hearing really how much you value. So you talking to them about the value of the program, your personal experiences and perspectives about what you've learned through being a sponsor and how that has helped you in your career or how similar leadership development programs have helped you. And then additionally, really giving them an opportunity to get to know you personally, one-on-one. They really value that coaching and feedback that you're providing to them during the different modules. So I wanted to share that with you, really just to reinforce the value of you being there at the conference. It doesn't go unnoticed. You may not feel like you play a huge role when you're there, but it's so meaningful to them. And those one-on-one conversations and giving them the opportunity to hear your experiences and perspectives is a huge component of the value we can offer them through this program. Some of the opportunities that came up in the survey was that some of the emerging leaders wished that you as sponsors could help talk with their managers more. And I think that goes really back to what are the different ways that you can advocate for the emerging leaders and for the program itself with your SLT peers to make sure that everyone really understands what this is all about. With the Emerging Leader Program, and that it is a commitment. It's an extra job responsibility for 18 months, and we do still have some work to do in terms of educating our leaders who are not as personally and intimately involved in the program as you all are. Participation at the conferences, again, it kind of lends back to what you heard in the best practices, just having somebody there that is from the site leadership team to bounce or corporate leadership team to help bounce ideas off of, gain perspectives if they have an idea or something they want to take back, particularly in that sponsor huddle at the end of at the end of day 2. Really critical to have that sponsor perspective there. So when you kind of step back and you look at this, best practices and opportunities, what it really comes down to is having a site leader there at the conferences to be able to bounce ideas off of, get perspective from, get coaching and one-on-one feedback discussions, and really learn from different people. So with this, the one takeaway I would ask is if for any reason you personally cannot be at an emerging leader conference, finding somebody for their own development, even that you can send in your place, would be really helpful. I think that just also will start to expand the knowledge, the population of knowledge that people have about the Emerging Leader Program as well. So I'll just pause here briefly. If there's anything else anyone wants to jump in on, anything you've seen that has worked well, or that you've learned, or just general recognition of some sponsor activities that have been helping.
Hey, Kim, this is Glenn. Hey, just a couple I would encourage too. I know from the power perspective, just making sure we're sort of encouraging the cross-group interactions. I've noticed a little bit, they tend to stick together in sort of power and nuclear groups, and breaking that up and encouraging those networks. I think they've found a lot of value in sort of expanding the networks beyond just sort of the groups. So I would just encourage sponsors to, when they're at the tables, encourage people to get around and meet people and meet different people. Has always worked well.
Thanks for that, Glenn. That's a great point. Anne-Marie and Mike, or if Katie's on as well, do you have anything you want to add from the survey as well?
Kim, I think you actually pretty much covered exactly what we read in the responses.
Thanks,
yeah, nothing more to add. Just emphasizing your point, Kim, of how much the emerging leaders get out of the sponsor involvement in any way, shape, or form. So it's just really a key component.
Yeah, thank you. All right, well, I'll move us along here and get into some of the more tactical information that we wanted to make sure that you had. So general updates when you step back and kind of look at the roadmap for class of 2018 and class of 2019, and yes, seriously, class of 2020. For class of 2018, where they are in their program experience is the end. In fact, they should be almost completely done with all of the commitments that they have in order to graduate. And so we are having the graduation event in combination, as I mentioned, with the class of 2019 August conference networking event in each region. And so those individuals should have those calendar invitations and have that out there. We'll go through more details there in another couple of slides. For the class of 2019, these individuals are just about halfway through their conference period. So they had the corporate conference in March, their first GenCo conference in May, and this is their second GenCo specific conference here in August. And those dates for the West are August 15th and 16th at Cantera. And for the East, we're going to be, it's August 22nd and 23rd. We're going to try out the Delmarva Conference Center. For cost optimization, we've been trying to stick to Exelon facilities. Unfortunately, going to the MOB is great during the day for the conferences for the East, but finding an affordable networking venue afterwards is a bit of a challenge, as well as hotels. So trying something new, hopefully it goes well. If not, please bear with us and we'll probably head back to Philly. So just wanted to mention that. And then the dates for the third GenCo conference are as listed on this slide, December 11th and 12th for the West. And then in the East, it's November 28th and 29th. So if you don't have that on your calendar, please add it. And then also in the fall, we'll be locking in the fourth GenCo conference dates, which will be sometime in January. And then the class of 2019 will have their capstone period January through June of 2019. And then class of 2020. So we're actually going to be thinking about nominations already for the class of 2020. So it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about the education, the advocacy of the program, helping your SLT peers understand what it's all about, what the commitment is, and helping them start to think about, based on your talent pipeline and your talent needs for your organization, who are those people that you think should be nominated for the class of 2020 emerging leaders, getting people into the right mindsets for nominations come year end, and what development experiences should occur as well for the class of 2019 who will be mentoring that next class of 2020. So diving into the class of 2019 August conference, again, dates and locations as listed there. So day one, well, first of all, this conference is all about leadership of self. So when you think about the program guide, the first conference is understanding the business and your role in it. This conference is about leadership of self, and the last two will start to be evolution of the leader and then what does it mean to lead others. So this one is very self-reflective for them. They will continue to use their DISC assessment results, and this will give them an opportunity to, as I'm looking here, I think there may have been a couple of things that have tweaked a little bit, but at the end of the day, they're going to continue to use their DISC assessment results. They're also, as pre-work, going to be going through their emotional intelligence assessment. And like I said, really getting that self-reflective perspective. We'll be helping them with some fundamental skill sets that they'll want to use to start building their brand as a leader and an up-and-coming leader. So we'll actually talk about building your brand. We'll go through clear and concise communications, time management and prioritization, as well as the art of feedback. We're also going to be preparing them for their 360 assessment, which will be coming up before the November-December conference. So that'll give you an overview of what we will be covering during the day and also a sense of when we have breaks built in. So you'll have an opportunity to plan any conflicts that you may have during the conference, hopefully around some of these modules and when it may make sense to step out if needed, and also where we would want you to lean in and engage in those conversations with the emerging leaders. In terms of support we actually need at the conference, so at the beginning of every conference we do a reflections piece where it's a look back at the prior conference. We get them to think about what have they learned, how have they applied it, and what's the impact to the business. So anyone who is at the May conference as a sponsor and will also be at the August conference, we're looking to see if there is someone that would like to facilitate that conversation with the emerging leaders. It is a 30-minute piece that is, again, really just a group discussion to get them to think back on their key takeaways, actions, and impacts to the business. So if you are interested in that, please shoot me an email. Similarly, you may recall at the May conference, we implemented something new called the sponsor story. So after lunch on day one, and in this conference on day two as well, we're asking a sponsor to reflect on their own personal learnings and leadership journey. And so there'll be two opportunities, one in each region. So again, one day one and one day two. At both the East and the West Conference, where we'll be looking for a sponsor to share some of those experiences with the group. We'll be doing this at every conference, and so that'll give the emerging leaders a chance to get to know your career ladder, your history, your lessons learned as a leader coming up in the Exelon organization. And then and similarly, please email me if you're interested in helping out with that. And similarly, if you are attending, just remember that there is the sponsor and emerging leader huddle at the end of day two. And that's something that if you can't be there, that you want to make sure that you have somebody that you're sending in your place, or that your emerging leaders are aware that you will not be there and that you are taking some sort of action to ensure you're following up with them afterwards to find out what they discussed. And then finally, for the conference support, we do have that Art of Feedback module, and we're looking for a sponsor to facilitate that with us. So I just learned Adam Schurman, who is our new sponsor from Dresden in the West, is actually going to be helping with that at the West Conference. So we are now just looking for somebody who might be interested in assisting with that in the East. So again, please email me if that's something that you are interested in. And then finally, just some general things again for the August conference. Please plan to stay from the conference to the graduation event, just like you would for the normal networking event, and participating in speed networking. And then, as Ted was saying, really try and engage, find out who those two to four leaders are that are attending in addition to you, and do the advocacy conversation with them, get them amped up to go. They're going to have an opportunity to hear from future leaders of Exelon about what business impacts the class of 2018 have been able to have as a result of the Emerging Leader Program. So this is a bit different from the format we used last year, which was a sit-down dinner with a sample of 2 to 3 presentations. This will give everybody an opportunity to talk about what they have done in their Emerging Leader Program, and also for the emerging leaders themselves, both classes, 2018 and 2019, to hear from each other as well. And then one other note here is we will be handing out graduation certificates at the graduation event itself, but every year we have provided the graduating class with some sort of a gift. And so if you've been around as a sponsor for a few years now, you may recall prior year we had you pick a book and provide it to them with a personal note at your sites. And so the Emerging Leader Working Team had talked about different things that we might want to do as a gift, and really felt like some sort of a book that can encourage them to continue learning and exploring their own leadership style and brand would be a good way to go. And so if you have any recommendations, something you read that's really resonated with you recently, feel free to let me know, and we'll try and pick something that would work well for the entire class. Okay. And then some details briefly about the class of 2018 and what their capstone completion and graduation event looks like. So first of all, we are doing a validation to make sure that anybody in the class of 2018 that should be graduating here at the August event has actually met all of those requirements. So TMOD has the action to validate and make sure there is not anybody at risk. I don't believe that there is, but what that means is that they've completed or are on track to complete their 360 assessment debrief with TMOD, that they've provided a quality program mentoring experience to an individual in the class of 2019, and they've delivered their capstone presentation. So that should be done for the majority of the class June 30th. I know there are some exceptions out there due to scheduling. And then additionally, we are going to be sending the end of program survey out here in August, and that would be something that optimally every emerging leader who is completing the program will participate in. And I won't go through this in detail, but this just shows some of the logistics for the actual graduation event itself, who will be there, and hopefully you saw in the meeting notice, we're targeting to have primarily key managers and directors at this event to do the speed networking, although we have also invited some senior level EO9 executives from both power and nuclear. And the reason for that, quite honestly, is that as we were talking about who does it make sense for the emerging leaders to be talking to, you all as 5s and 6s are the ones that are going to be needing to have a relationship with these emerging leaders, understand what they're all about, what they can bring to the business, because you're the ones that are going to be selecting them for leadership roles and putting them on succession charts for different positions. So much more valuable for you to have the opportunity to explore what that leadership group at the emerging leader level looks like than the EO9. So we're targeting a 2-to-1 leader to emerging leader ratio at each table. So what that means is we're looking for, hopefully, if all goes according to plan, tables of 9, where we would have 3 leaders at each table. So that could be a sponsor, it could be a TMOD person, or it could be one of the key managers and directors or senior level executives that were invited. And then we'll have 3 individuals from the class of 2019 and 3 individuals from the class of 2018. So that's the graduating class. And so while no capstone presentations will be given in a stand-up presentation format at the graduation event, if there is anyone that you think is a real knockout, standout emerging leader that you would like to see have the opportunity to give a formal presentation, just let us know, share their name with us or your TMOD person, and then we would be looking to tap those individuals and come back as an example of what good looks like for the class of 2019 emerging leaders at the conferences themselves. And so just one point I want to reinforce / clarify is that we won't be having presentations at the graduation event. The emerging leaders from the class of 2018 will be asked to share in discussion format through speed networking what they learned, what the impact to the business was. So any questions about the conference, what we need from you all, or what to expect with class of 2018 capstone completion and graduation? All right. So last slide here is just a wrap up of all of the things that we're looking for from you. So please attend the August conference and grad event. If you have not already RSVP'd to me, please let me know. And if you can't attend, send someone in your place. Ensuring you have those conference dates for November / December on your calendar. Continue to support the class of 2018 as they wrap up their program experience. Supporting class of 2019 with their May conference reflection and post-work, and helping them prepare their pre-work for the August conference as needed. Fulfilling your role as an advocate for your emerging leaders and with your SLT peers, sharing best practices and lessons learned with each other. And then let us know too if there's anything in particular that you feel like you'd really like to jump in on a conference with. This is another way you can meet your own development goal, focusing on the how with a leader-led facilitation opportunity. And then just a reminder again, for the August conference, we need to have a few people email me with their interest in facilitating the reflections piece on day 1, providing a sponsor story either on day 1 or on day 2. We're looking for the Art of Feedback facilitator in the East, and just for anyone who is able to share personal experience about their own 360 assessment. That's something that we would be, just as a heads up, reaching out to the audience, to you all as sponsors, to share with the emerging leaders when we help them prepare for their 360. So that is all I have for you. The deck is in the meeting notice if you want to take a look at that. And in that deck, it does include the class committee names if you're interested to know if your emerging leaders has signed up for that. It also defines what each of those roles are. And this, just to clarify, is ongoing opportunities, and those are in addition to the conference lead opportunities, which would include the safety message and the icebreaker, similar to what we've done in prior years. All right, so that is all I have for you. I know we are about out of time, so I'll just pause again and see if there are any final questions or comments from the group. Okay, hearing none, have a great rest of the day, everyone. End of call.
Thank you.